Melania Trump. If you are miserable, divorce Donald. Even if he is president. If there is one person in the White House feeling as depressed as millions of Americans, it looks like it's First Lady, Melania Trump. And since her husband has broken every norm as president, then she can, too, divorce the jerk. When Donald Trump jetted off to Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum on January 24, his wife was very notably missing. The First Lady Melania Trump cancelled her plans to accompany her husband, supposedly, for scheduling and logistical issues. It seemed like a super lame excuse. After all, wouldn't she have known for weeks or even months that the president was scheduled to give a keynote speech to the world's elite political and business leaders? Of course she would. No, it wasn't logistical reasons that forced the First Lady to regrettably not accompany her husband, unless the logistics were that she just couldn't force her legs to walk next to him onto a plane and then to any number of fancy Davos events. Who could blame Melania for not being able to fake a smile as well as leg movements by the side of her husband, when just days before, the news had broken that he had an alleged affair with a porn star, 4 months after she had given birth to the couple's son Barron, now 11. The alleged affair with Stormy Daniels went on for 11 months and Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, allegedly gave her $130,000 in exchange for her silence, just weeks before the 2016 election. Since the bombshell news broke, Stormy has been splashed all over the news and gave an interview on Inside Edition on January 25, while In Touch magazine printed an old interview with her in which she talked about sex with Trump, and quoted him telling her not to worry about his wife, Melania. If Melania had jauntily flown off to Davos with Donald, it actually would have seemed downright weird, in light of the Stormy scandal. Why wouldn't Melania be hurt, humiliated, furious, freaked for her son, Barron, and deeply embarrassed in front of the world? Any woman would be. And why shouldn't she divorce Trump, even if he is the President of the United States? She looks miserable as First Lady. Have you ever seen her crack a smile? She cried her eyes out on election night when Donald won the presidency, according to Fire and Fury author Michael Wolff, who also says they fought on inaugural day. She didn't move from Trump Tower in NYC into the White House until 5 months after her husband took up residence, and even there, they sleep in separate bedrooms. Since her move to D.C., we have barely seen her in public. When we do, she's almost always unsmiling, hidden behind dark sunglasses and looking deeply disconnected from Donald. And then, there was the hand swat incident when the Trumps arrived in Israel on a state visit and Melania pushed away Donald's hand when he tried to hold hers. Melania, who can blame you for canceling Davos, slapping away Donald's hand and crying on election night? You are married to a completely egocentric narcissist whose every thought and action is about me. He's incapable of giving a hoot about you, aside from enjoying your presence as gorgeous arm candy. There's clearly very little, if any, physical intimacy between you two. You have those separate White House bedrooms. You lead completely separate lives. There are no reports of nightly or even weekly family dinners with Barron. You don't entertain. As a couple, you are polar opposites of the Obamas. Loving, life partners, confidants, and both deeply involved with raising their daughters as well as in improving the lives of millions of Americans. Melania, you already endured the humiliation of the Access Hollywood pussy-grabbing tape and the accusations of sexual harassment from over 20 women. Dump Trump. While Donald did his dog and pony show at Davos, Melania very pointedly made a trip to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. It was a not-so-subtle dig at her husband, who has famously called Nazis and KKK members very fine people. There has been a 37% spike in anti-Semitic incidents in 2017, so not surprising since Trump has repeatedly not disavowed white nationalism. Well, Melania, why don't you go further than dig at Donald? Life is short. Divorce him. Why suffer along with the American people for at least 3 more years? Now is your best chance to not have an ugly divorce and maybe even pry a few extra millions out of your cheapskated husband. Even if you have a lousy prenup, he may be willing to shell out now, not to have one more scandal.